Please welcome back Chris Keating.
All right. Hopefully some of our 2018 attendees are seeing themselves in some of these old videos. We do have an exciting afternoon planned, so let's get right to it. Please welcome from Harri, Luke Fryer. All right.
Hey, Chris.
Welcome to RLC, Luke.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
We've known each other for a while, but this is your first RLC. What does our crowd need to know about Harri?
Well, look, simply put, Chris, Harri is a new kind of technology platform that's bringing all employee-facing technology into one place. We have called the platform a workforce operating system because we know that in the restaurant world, we run our businesses through our people much more than any other industry. And so with our workforce operating system, we've taken 30 different modules of employee-facing tech and brought it all into one place to cover the full spectrum of the employee lifecycle. So if we think about the challenges of attracting employees, managing the full hiring process, screening, interviewing, onboarding, and then moving into post-hire concepts like workforce management, so scheduling, time and attendance, communicating, and ultimately growing, developing, and retaining our employees. So it's a very broad platform, but because we're only focused on the needs of restaurants, we've been able to go richer and deeper into functionality, because we've really built this from the ground up for the needs of restaurants. But we've also been very careful to architect our overall system in a way that allows it to stay agile to the kind of ever increasingly crazy and complex rules and regulations that we're faced with.
So no secret to everyone in this room, the challenges we face on the labor front, the problems that cause. How does Harri help solve some of those problems?
Well, it might be worth giving you an idea of those problems, I guess, through my own experience. I've been an operator, an entrepreneur, if you will, in the restaurant world for the last 20 years. I spent the first 10 years of my career in Australia and moved to New York about 10 years ago.
That's why you have the New York accent.
The very southern tip of New York, exactly. And look, Australia is an amazing place to live, but it's a really difficult market to scale a restaurant business in. And that's primarily because of very high wage costs and very complex labor rules. And it was about 10 years ago that I saw this kind of perfect storm of labor pain brewing in the Australian market. We had record low unemployment, well below 5%. Unfortunately, very familiar to what we're seeing here today. We had both government and marketplace forces driving up wages well ahead of our ability to increase menu prices to respond, and this mind-numbing increase in the complexity around workforce compliance. And having moved to the US, it was about 5 years ago that I couldn't help but think this dark cloud of labor pain had followed me across the Pacific.
So it's your fault.
Yeah, it's all me. I've got to tell you. But at that point in time, I decided that there was an opportunity to use technology to solve these familiar patterns.
So 20 years as an operator, I've been to at least one of your restaurants. How did you make that transition to tech guy from operator guy?
It was abrupt, and yes, it was a real transition, let me tell you. Look, I used to think the internet was really for booking holidays and trying to find a date, but when I took a step back and tried to figure out how we could create a new kind of technology platform, I realized that the first problem we faced with employee technology is that there were just too many systems, right? These systems often didn't speak to each other, they didn't share data in an intelligent way, and ultimately for our frontline operators, our managers and our employees, it was a confusing landscape that meant that many tasks weren't being digitized and therefore not being optimized, or, especially when it comes to compliance, weren't being done at all. And I got a little annoyed because, it became clear that this concept of restaurants being slow to embrace technology actually wasn't true at all. It was the gilded world of software that had been slow to embrace the specific needs and challenges of restaurants. So in 2014, we hired a team of engineers and put our heads down for 4 years to build a solution.
Yeah. Well, I've spoken to you many times throughout this journey. What learnings did you pick up along the way?
Well, for us, it's been interesting because we have a purview of both pre-hire and post-hire workflows and the associated data and trends. And there's 3 key insights I'd like to share with the group today. think the first thing is that we all know that the industry suffers from chronically high turnover, and if we blend full service and limited service into one, we're looking at an average of between 90 and 100% turnover. That we know. The scary part is this concept of short cycle turnover, the number of employees who leave in the first 90 days of employment, and that accounts for nearly half of all employee turnover. And even worse, half of that number again in the first 30 days. And when we really drill into the cost of this short cycle turnover, using an average of about $3,500 per turnover event, it accounts for nearly 15 to 17% of our total labour bill. Okay, and that against the backdrop of rapidly increasing wages, this concept of high turnover is something we really need to try and address. Short cycle turnover can certainly be addressed with better hiring technology. Then when we've looked deeper into why people are leaving, often we hear about job abandonment or issues with managers, but when we've really drilled into these exit interviews and asked sort of more probing questions, we find that 65% of people leaving within 90 days are leaving because they're not happy with their schedules. And that can be either the number of hours, the pattern of the schedule, or their ability to interact in a flexible way with scheduling technology. So certainly something that can be solved there. And then thirdly, looking at the scheduling and time and attendance environment, we've seen two clear trends emerge. Firstly, when we have a scheduling technology that's not closely and intelligently linked with time and attendance, we see an opportunity for wage leakage. And when we have a time and attendance technology that's not biometrically secure, there's obviously the opportunity for wage theft. But when you put those two problems together, we're looking at a further 5 to 7% of total labour being a combination of that wage theft or time theft and wage leakage. So wrapping it all together, it's almost 25% of labour costs can really be seen as almost relatively low-hanging fruit when it comes to deploying technology to solve these problems as we confront an era of much higher wages.